And 3, 2, 1, action.
All right, still sounding okay out there?
Sounds good. What's that song called?
That is The Girl from Ipanema.
I love that one.
I do too. We're going to be focusing on that song a little bit today.
Ooh.
But before we get into the lesson, Sean, do you want to cover some of our Zoom tips and tricks for everybody?
I can do that, yeah. So what I'm going to do here is just go over a couple things that we've gone over several times, most of you. But we always have some new people, so we're going to go over it again. It's always good to have a review. So what we want to do is, first of all, I see a lot of videos on. That's good. We like to see you usually. So if you want to turn your video on and it's not on already, you can go to the bottom left of your screen there if you're on a computer. If you're on a tablet, I believe if you just tap the screen, you should see it somewhere. It says Start Video. And when you press that, your camera turns on and then we can see you. If you don't want that on and for some reason it's on, I see Peggy going like this. If it's on and you don't want it on, you can turn it off as well. It'll say Stop Video. It's easy enough, right? One thing you'll notice is that you're all what's called muted. So you can't talk unless we kind of click on you and let you talk. So if you want to, if there's anything you have to say or if you miss something, you have a question, just let us know. And all you have to do is what's called raise your hand, just like if you were in a class in person. And the way you do that is if you look at the bottom of your screen on a computer, it's toward the middle, it says Participants. And when you click that, a little window pops up, and one of those buttons on that window should say Raise Hand. And all you got to do is click on that, and then it kind of alerts us to, see you and bring you up and let you say something. And if you decide, oh, never mind, I don't have a question, or maybe somebody else answered it, you can also lower your hand. So that's helpful if somebody's already answered your question, just that way we can keep moving on. Make sure if you have a question, it pertains to something in the class. That's always helpful too, so we can move on and get through everything we need to get through, because we got a lot to cover. Last thing I think I'll mention is right next to the participants, there's a feature called Chat. I see a lot of you using it at the moment, and I'll kind of help you with that one-on-one for some of you. If you see sometimes people post a question on there, a lot of the time I'm going through and answering those kind of on an individual basis. We can do that as well. If you click that chat button, it brings up what everybody's saying if somebody's saying something, and you can actually send things privately if you wanted. So if you needed help, like maybe your audio's not working or something like that, I've seen that before, I can kind of walk you through it while we're in the class as well. Sort of one-on-one, you can message me privately and I can answer your question usually pretty easily. I think that's about all I have for today. We're going to go back to Bryan and learn some music.
All righty. Thank you, Sean. We got a couple of things in the chat. One says no sound. Another says people don't know how to turn on sound. So I'm wondering if that is for their sound or if they can't hear us.
Okay, well, one thing I can tell you is if you can't hear anything and have any audio whatsoever, that button on the bottom left that I said the video, there should be a button next to it as well that says Join Audio. And you need to click on that so you can hear anything, and so your audio works as well for when we unmute you if you have something to say. That's how you do it. You have to have, just so even if you're on an iPad, click on the screen so you get some pop-ups and try clicking on a few of those things, and one of them should say somewhere Join Audio. And if your audio is on already, if you're pretty sure you already did that, it could be as simple as your speakers, on the device you're using. Maybe turn up the volume. I had mine on mute earlier when we started, and I was like, I don't hear anything, But I just had to unmute it on my computer. I was just a goofball. So try those things and see if that works for you. If not, message me and I'll help you through it.
All righty. Thank you, Sean. We got one question. Vern, you got a question here? I just unmuted you. Or I tried to. Well, it's not letting me unmute you, Vern. Sorry. Maybe you can type it in the chat.
Yeah, sometimes if you have a question, pay attention to your screen because it'll pop up and say unmute, because I think some of you might have some setting on where you have to unmute yourself. We can't just do it for you. But sometimes we can just do it for you. It just depends on the settings you have on. So just pay attention to your screen if we unmute you. If you had a question, just look and you might have to click on something so you can talk as well. So.
All righty. So let's get right into it here, guys. Thank you all again for joining us. This is so cool. I'm just continuously impressed by this platform, and we got 75 people in the class today. And hopefully most of y'all were around for my session last week where we talked about the different kind of components or the different parts of your music styles. And so we talked about the drummer, the bass player, your orchestra plus, your genie or basic, and of course the lower hum. And so hopefully you guys got a lot out of that. And so today I wanted to cover the other big thing, which hopefully will be a review for many people, but hopefully you'll get some new stuff out of this too. As a hobby musician, when you're playing our Lowry instruments or our SD instruments, there are basically two things that we have to be concerned about when we're setting up to play. One is the style, and one is the melody sound. And so we covered the styles last week, and of course, remember those are things like country or Latin, rock, etc. And today I'm going to cover some melody sound stuff, specifically presets and setups, and some of the more popular ones of those that you can use. So that's how I kind of think of it. When I'm sitting down to play, there are two things. I have to pick a style, or in some cases that might be no style, and then I have to pick melody sounds. And so what I'm going to talk about today are mostly we're going to focus on your style setups or rhythm presets. So again, with 70 plus people on here, there's going to be a lot of different instruments that y'all have. So if you have an E series instrument, for example, you have an EZ1, or right here I'm on the EZ4, or an EY300, or anything with an E at the beginning, you're going to have what they call style setup or style setups. If you have anything else, you're going to have rhythm preset. And for our purposes today, those are basically interchangeable terms. When they develop new instruments, they sometimes just change some of the terminology. So for today's purposes, just kind of assume rhythm preset and style setup are the same thing. We will elaborate on that a little bit more. The only exception is if you have an SD. I don't know if we have any owners of our beautiful new SD instruments. On the new SDs, it's called auto setup. That's AUTO, auto setup. So auto setup or style setup or rhythm preset. And that's what we're going to kind of focus on today. And the reason why I like to start with these as far as the melody sounds is because it's the easiest to use. And if you're like me, I don't know, when I first started with Fletcher about 10 years ago, I remember sitting down at a Prestige, which was the top of the line at that time, and it looked like the cockpit of a 747, I imagine. And there's just so many buttons, I didn't have any idea what to do. And the manager of that store at the time said, well, just touch Big Band and start playing. I said, it can't possibly be that easy. And it turns out it was. So on any instrument that you have, whether it's an SD, a Lowry, no matter if it's a small one or a big one keyboard, two keyboards, if you just turn on your instrument, you touch whatever style you want to play, and you start playing, you're going to have a beautiful melody sound. Or if you have a two keyboard, often you'll have two melody sounds because you'll have one for the upper and one for the lower. And to show you what I mean, I'm going to start off on the EZ4 again today here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the instrument. So I'm going to touch the home button over here on the left. And what that's going to do is kind of restart. And then what I can do is just pick any style of music that I want to play. And not only do I get the band that I talked about last week, But I also, on this instrument, I have an upper and a lower keyboard, so I'll get 2 melody sounds that go with whatever band that I pick without touching anything else. So I just reset it, hit home, and I'm going to put the mic down for a second. But watch this. I'm going to touch one button and start playing. Okay, now I can touch one other button. Let's touch rock, for example. That was country. Hopefully you guys got that one. I'll touch rock, and that's the only button I'm going to touch. It's going to set up not only the band, but it's also going to set me up with these 2 melody sounds. Okay, and I won't give you too many other examples there, but just know that when you turn on your instrument without touching anything else, you touch one button, whatever style of music or whatever genre, sometimes I call them that, whatever genre of music you want to play. If you want to play gospel, you touch gospel, and you're going to be set up not only with the band that'll accompany you perfectly, but also with 2 melody sounds if you have a 2 keyboard instrument like this. And the reason for that is because of style setup, right? So again, style setup or rhythm preset, depending on what instrument you have, will come on automatically when you turn on your instrument. And what you'll notice, I'm going to bring you in for a close-up view here. Okay. Now, right in the middle there, right under the screen, you can see it says style setup there on kind of on the left below the screen. And if you can tell, I don't know, the lighting's a little weird here, but right now that is an orange light that's on that style setup button. And when you turn on your instrument, it's going to come on orange, your style setup will. And the reason is because that's what we would call kind of in standby mode. And you want to maybe make a mental note of this, that with style setup, you can only use those style setup sounds with a style, okay? So in standby mode, basically it's waiting for me to select a style. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it from here, but when I pick, let's say Latin, oh, you can kind of see it there. It went from orange to red. Now I have a red light, which means style setup is now active. And what that means is that's chosen, in this case, one sound on the upper and one sound on the lower keyboard to go with my Latin band. And this is really cool. If anybody has been around in Fletcher for 20 years, I don't know if we have anybody that's been around that long, but there was a time when there were no rhythm presets and no style setups. And so you had to push all the buttons yourself, and hopefully you knew how to work one of those numeric keypads, because it didn't have a display screen either. There was no big window back then either. So to me, this is still really, really cool that you can just, with one button, get those sounds that you need for your song. Now, if you have a 1 keyboard instrument, like an Easy 1 or an Easy 2, something like that, what it's going to do, you still have the style setup, it's just going to give you the 1 sound, okay? And then if you have a 2 keyboard instrument, like the Easy 4, it'll give you that 1 sound for the upper and another sound for the lower, okay? Once you go to the Easy 10, you're going to start seeing numbered buttons in the middle, kind of right here. Okay, and what that means is each additional numbered button is going to give you another 2, one for the upper, one for the lower, melody sounds. Okay, and so I'm going to try to take you over here to the fanfare for a second, or the journey, sorry. Let's see if we can see. On here, you're going to be able to see 8 buttons. Kind of right in the center of the screen there, those black buttons there. And that means that in addition to your first style setup, you get another 8 for the upper and the lower keyboards. Okay, and then if I go up to the top of the line instruments, the most that you'll have in the center there is going to be 10. Okay, and that's in addition to the first one that you get, which we would call either rhythm preset or style setup 0, plus the 1 through 10, meaning that you get, just by touching, like if I were to touch Latin, I would get 22 melody sounds. And that's incredible. Now, going back to something like the Majesty, I don't know if anybody ever owned one of those. The Majesty had 3 style setups, and that was like, it was a huge deal back then. The Millennium came out, I think that had 5. And then with the technology with the Royale and beyond that, they started putting in 10. So that was really, really cool. And of course, that means that you just have a wider variety of sounds to pick from. Okay. Oh, looks like we have a question. Hi, Anne. Can you unmute her, Sean? I can't seem to do it on mine.
Yeah, I pressed it. It says ask to unmute. So she has to look at her screen and just press one button. It should say unmute, and she can talk.
Can you unmute yourself, Anne?
Well, we'll keep trying to get to her.
But if anybody has questions, please, raise your hand virtually or wave them around like that, and hopefully Sean or I will see you. Because I don't want to get too far ahead and leave somebody behind. Yeah, I still can't hear Ann, but anyway, so I'm going to keep on going here for now. So just know, again, I want to emphasize that you can only use your style setup or rhythm preset sounds if you're using a rhythm style. Okay, if you're somebody who just likes to play with the easy button, you're going to have to find different melody sounds to use. And depending on time, maybe we can get into some of that later. But in order to use style setup or rhythm preset, you have to be playing with a style, or else it doesn't know what sounds to put there. Because remember, these sounds change depending on what you're playing. If I touch Latin, it's going to give me Latin sounds. If I go to march or traditional, it's not going to give me those Latin sounds anymore because those wouldn't make sense in the marching band. It's going to give me marching band sounds. If I touch country, it'll give me country sounds. So this is really good because I can't tell you how many times over the years I've heard some variation of, well, I really like country music, but I don't know what melody sounds to pick. I don't know if a clarinet goes with that band, or I don't know if whatever goes with whatever genre. And so this is a way for you very easily to get set up and start playing. And if you're like me, I like to sit down and just start playing. I don't like to have to touch a million buttons in order to get set up. So this is, you turn on your instrument, you pick whatever style of music you want to play, and you're off to the races. Nothing else. Okay. So again, on the easy 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're going to have the one style setup. On the easy 4, you do have upper and lower keyboard sounds. Once you go to the easy 10, you have an additional 5 style setups. When you get to the fanfare and the journey, you have 8. And then beyond that, you're going to have 10. Okay, so if you have something like Inspire, Rialto, Marquis, Grand Marquis, Aria, Sterling, Patriot, Liberty, Prestige, Prestige Plus, all of those, you'll have 10 in the middle. Okay. So does anybody have any questions on that so far? I don't see any hands.
I see some head shaking.
All right. So hopefully that's that's a review. I'm hoping that most of us know that, or at least after I said it, you're kind of remembering it, because those are some of the most basic sounds that you can use. All right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to spin us around. Close your eyes if you get seasick.
Wee.
I was just going to say, Sean, where's my traveling music?
Where's my wee?
All right, so over here, I'm going to be back on the Sterling, and that's what I was playing on the other day. And just as a side note, if anybody virtually attended my concert the other day, this is what I played on. I played on the Sterling, and I only used rhythm presets, or the equivalent of style setups on the E series. So I didn't use a stick. I didn't use anything special. I just turned it on, and I used what I had here in the instrument. So there's a certain formula that I've gotten to know by playing these so much, and some of you will probably recognize this. I think Robert actually touched on this. I wouldn't bother writing it down because we will have some supplemental materials we'll send you out after the session here. But if this sounds familiar, you might recognize some of this stuff. when you go through your rhythm presets, they all follow a very specific pattern. And one being what they call easiest, which is kind of a light sound. 2 being a little more, also kind of a light sound. 3 is organ. 4 is strings. 5 is a bell or whistle. 6 is solo. 7 is vocal or choir. 8 is piano or keyboard. 9 is ensemble, and 10 is finale. So again, I know I zoomed through those, but don't bother writing that down because we'll send that out to you. Now, if you don't know that formula, what I would focus on is, well, what sounds do you like? I happen to like strings, so I know strings is on 4. I know piano is on 8. So no matter what style I pick, I'm going to get some kind of string player on 4 and some kind of piano player on 8. Okay, now if I'm on Latin, that might be piano and strings. Sorry, 1 second here. All right, can you still hear me, Sean?
Yep.
We had a little technical glitch there, sorry. So anyway, I don't know if I got cut off there, but I was saying that you don't have to know every single one of those. You can just think, well, if you like strings, that's on number 4. If you like piano, that's on number 8. If you like a big finishing sound, that's on number 10. If you want something that's kind of quiet, that's on number 1. So, and then the more you use it, the more you get accustomed to playing that kind of stuff. So what I wanted to do is I'll show you using Girl from Ipanema as an example. I'm going to play all the way through the song just one time, and I'm going to start on number 1 here, on my rhythm preset number 1, and I'm going to work my way through until I get to number 10 at the end, will be a big sound. So just check this out. How'd we sound there, Sean? Is that volume okay?
Yes, it's great.
All right. So what I did there, guys, is I just put on a bossa nova style. I was feeling some kind of Latin music today, so I don't know. I picked Girl from Ipanema. I figured that would be a song everybody knows. If that seems like the music is a little advanced for you, don't worry, because this stuff applies to any music. Of course, not just Latin, but whatever you want to play. And it could be, if you're in the mood for a Latin song, you could play Spanish Eyes. You could play Marianne, okay? And actually, a fun little fact about Marianne, I know probably half the people groaned when I said Marianne. Believe me, I played it more times than you, I promise. But if you go to YouTube and you look up the original version of Marianne, it's actually a lot faster, and it's a really peppy version than what I've normally heard. So if you want a different spin on a tune that you might have played 1,000 times, check out that YouTube version of Marianne. It's nice and fast. But what I did there, after I turned on Bossa Nova, okay, and that's, of course, under Latin here, I just went through some of the different rhythm preset sounds. I started off on number 1, and then I went to number 8, and then I think I went to number 6, and then 9 and 10. I don't know. I didn't plan it out. And that's one of the things I really love about the rhythm presets and style setups, is because you don't have to plan it out. If you know kind of what the formula is, you know, again, 1 and 2 being some softer sounds, 9 and 10 being your big finale sounds, 8 is piano, etc., then you don't have to really plan it out. You can just kind of go with it, and it'll work for any arrangement that you might want to play. Now, if you're somebody who's thinking, well, I don't have 9 and 10, okay, that's perfectly fine. What'll happen is 1 and 2 will still be, in general, will be your softer sounds, some minimized accompaniment. And then if you have, let's say, 8, like on a journey, then 7 and 8 would be your louder sounds. So, and if you have an easy 10 or an instrument that has only up to number 5, then 5 would be your big finishing sound, okay? But if you have an instrument with 10, there is that formula that goes with all of them. I'm going to check if we have any questions here. I don't see any hands raised. Okay. Another thing I wanted to mention too, because the E series, a lot of things changed for the better. So if you have an E series instrument where you don't have rhythm preset, you have style setup, there are a couple things that that you should know. One is that if you have something like a, well, let's say a fanfare or a journey, that's what I was just mentioning, that has up to number 8. Okay, on those instruments, it doesn't follow that same formula that I was just talking about on the numbers 1 through 10. So in other words, number 8 is not going to be a piano. Okay, so you might want to double check the sounds and make sure you're getting the ones that you like before you get into your arrangement. However, if you have an instrument that has a vintage button, okay, so I believe it starts with the Inspire. If you have a button that says vintage, what vintage means is not like old vintage sounds, it's the vintage formula. Okay, so if you have an Inspire, a Rialto, Marquis, Grand Marquis, or Aria, if you use your regular style setups, they may not follow that formula. Some styles do, some don't. You just have to check. However, if you use vintage, vintage will follow that same thing, you know, where 3 is always organ and 4 is strings and 8 is piano, 7 is vocals, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So does anybody have any questions up to that point? Vern says the sound is very low.
I'd talk to him. Looks like Hal's waving his hand. Do you have a question, Hal?
Hey, Bryan.
Hi, Hal. How you doing?
All right. Now, you know that I have the EC10, right?
Yep.
Now, can you go over the preset, because you know that I have 8.
You should have 5, Hal, on the Easy 10.
Right,
Should have numbers 1 through 5.
Just a minute. Oh yeah, correct. My mistake.
I was gonna say, if there's 8 on the Easy 10, we've been selling them too cheap.
No, my mistake. That's because my thing's right behind me. Yeah, I do. So then you're saying, which, you know, when I do it, I have 5 different, so that'll give me the sounds 5 different for the upper and then for the lower.
Yep, that's correct. And actually, technically, it's 6, because what you have is what we would call style setup 0, which is if you turn style setup on, but you don't touch any of the numbers. And that'll give you an upper and a lower sound. And then in addition to that, you have numbers 1 through 5, which also have an upper and a lower.
Right.
So technically, you have 12 sounds per style.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And remember that those change. That's what's really cool about the style setups or the rhythm presets, is that they're made for that style or that rhythm, right? So when you go to a bossa nova, you're going to get sounds that are made for a Latin band. If you go to big band, you're going to get big band sounds, right? Country, you get country band sounds. So they're different with each one. So I think that's really cool. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to talk about as far as the rhythm presets go. I guess I should mention too, a lot of the instruments, the bigger instruments will have one that says organ, which is right, I don't know if you can see here, right next to your number 1. That's going to be all organ sounds. So if you're somebody who really, really likes organ sounds, that's going to be all organ on the top keyboard, and you do get a complementary sound down on the lower keyboard. Okay. Typically, I don't use that, even though I love organ sounds. I just go to normal, okay? And that's, again, the equivalent of normal rhythm preset is like style setup. And what that does is that changes all of the numbers 1 through 10 in the middle into sounds for that particular style. And remember, if you have numbers 1 through 10 plus 0, right? Technically, that's 22 sounds, if you include the upper and the lower, per style. And how many sounds do you actually use in a song? Maybe 4, something like that, 5. And so that's plenty of stuff to pick from. I will also mention too that starting with the Easy 10 and above, you will be able to see the sounds that you picked on your screen. Okay, the Easy 10 and the fanfare and the journey will display that when you select a button. It'll tell you on the bottom of the screen. If you have a big window, this is my favorite button on the whole instrument. If you come down, all the way down on the lower keyboard to the left, you're going to have buttons that say custom. And depending on the instrument, you might have 1, 2, 3, you might have 1, 2, 3, 4, or you might have up to 5. And one of those buttons turns on what we call active preset display. And what that means is on this Sterling here, I touch number 4, and it shows me on the screen right here all of the sounds that are in there. So I love that because, as employees, we tend to know quite a bit about the instruments, but if anyone tells you they know every single sound, they're lying. I mean, there's thousands of them, so it's impossible for us to remember. And so when they came out with this technology on the A series had us first, all right, you touch that and it'll tell you exactly what's in there. So I know that if I touch number 5, I'm going to have marimbas. All right. I know if I touch number 9, I'm going to have mariachis. So that's really, really helpful. That's one of my favorite features. Again, that's your custom button number 4, or it might be number 3 if you have some instruments where it only goes 1, 2, 3. All right. So I'm not seeing any questions so far. So what I'm going to do is move on to my other favorite group of presets, okay, which are your category presets. Now, remember, rhythm presets or style setups, you have to use with a style. Because just think of it this way, if you don't tell it what style of music you're going to play, how would it know what sounds to put in there, right? So when it's in that standby mode, you have to tell it, I'm going to play Hawaiian music. Right, and then you have all Hawaiian sounds, okay? But the other group of presets that you can use, and there are some others too, but these are the 2 main ones. The other one is called category presets or category setups, depending on what instrument you have, okay? And those do not change. So those you can think of as like a group of sounds, and again, we're still just talking about melody. So those are a group of melody sounds that you can play without a style or with a style because they don't change. So in other words, if I wanted to just play with the easy button and I'm in kind of practice mode, but I want to play Girl from Ipanema right now, if I just turn the instrument on, I'm going to reset it here real quick for us. Okay, when it comes on, if I touch the easy button, the sound I'm going to get is going to be organ. It's a really nice organ sound, but maybe not for Girl from Ipanema. Okay, right? Nice sound, but I want some Latin sounds, but I don't want the style in this case. I just want to turn on the easy button. So I turn on the easy button. What I can do is look over here. Let me angle my camera down here. Okay, so you have your numbers 1 through 10. Just to the right, you're going to have what they call category presets. Okay, now on the A series and some of the other instruments, it'll actually say things like theater, country, big band, Latin, etc. If you have an E-series instrument, it might say, there'll just be one button there that you push, and then it'll be select, and then all of them will be up in your big window. Okay, on this one, there is a button that says Latin. So that's perfect for Girl from Ipanema. So now I touch Latin. I can come over to my favorite button back down here. Remember that number 4 is going to show me everything that's in there for my numbers 1 through 10. Okay, so now let me show you some of these sounds. This is just with the easy button. Okay, so that was my group of Latin category presets. Okay, now what's really cool about the categories is that depending on what instrument you have, you might have 4 of them, you might have 8, or you might have 8 pages of them. Okay, so on the big window instruments, which is the Sterling like I'm on here, I do have a certain number on the panel, right? Theater, country, big band, show, and Latin. But then there's a button that says more. More, I can go in, and now on my big window on the right side here, I see sacred, bells, jazz, nostalgic, modern, holidays, brass, and lush. Now, each one of those titles, sacred, nostalgic, lush, whatever, that represents an entire group of sounds. This is really important. So if you don't know this, I'd pay real close attention because I don't want you to miss out on a lot of these great sounds that you have on your instrument. So when I touch more, let's pick, I really like the nostalgic category. Okay, so I touch nostalgic. I come back to my favorite button over here, number 4. And now it shows me all of the nostalgic players right on the screen. So again, I'm just going to play with the easy button, but I have Louis Armstrong in there. I have Harry and Benny. I've got the Dorseys. I've got the Stradivarius violin. I've got the Lombardo horn section. I've got Mr. Showman. So let me play a couple of these for you. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to get carried away here. I have so much fun playing those sounds. But that's the nostalgic category, okay? So when I go back to more, I can pick lush, I can pick holidays, I can pick bells, I can pick any of these. But then there's another really important button here. This one's a virtual button on the screen. If you go to your instrument and you touch more, on the first screen here, there's very likely to be a button in the lower right of the screen that says next. When I touch next, I have a whole other page of more category presets. So I have pianos plus, and remember each one of those represents 22 sounds. So I have 22 pianos plus sounds. I have around the world, which is different instrument sounds from all over the world, 22, right? And I can touch next again. Now I have things like finales, theater organs. These are really pretty too. I got to play just a minute. And this is one of my new favorite ones, the finales category. This is for big, epic finishing sounds. And I did a workshop on this once. If you ever want more control over your orchestra, this is just the easy button. Okay, so we're still not using the style, just the easy button, but I'm going to turn off the memory function here. So normally memory is going to hold the chord for you. All right, if I turn memory off, I get that, which is pretty fun. So this is the finales category. God, isn't that fun? I love that. So anyway, my point being, when you go into these more category presets or category setups, make sure you're looking at everything that's in the window, and also make sure you go to next page, because here on the Sterling, I've got 1, 2, 3 pages of groups of category presets. If you have above the Sterling, you're going to have even more than that. And remember that the big take home is that if you want something that's just real easy, just to start playing, you know, I used Girl from Ipanema as the example. I can touch Bossa Nova and just start playing, and that's my rhythm presets or my style setups. Okay, and depending on what instrument you have one of those, or you might have 22. Or I guess technically on if you have vintage, you have 44, because vintage doubles the sounds that you have. Okay, and that should be plenty for anybody, even if you're working with just 4 or 5 or 8 setups. That should be a really good starting point for you to help pick your melody sounds. Now, if you only have, let's say you're on an easy 4, that's what I was playing on before there, and you only have the 1, but you want to change your sounds, you still can do that. On the right side of the instrument, there's going to be little pictures, little icons that'll say, you know, pianos, guitars, strings, etc. And you can still change your sound that way if you want to. It's just another couple of buttons that you have to push in order to get that done. Okay. Now, if you're looking for something maybe a little bit more elaborate, and you get to know some of your melody sounds, that's when you can come over to those categories, and then you can still use those with a style. I was just showing you without, but let's say I wanted. Actually, here's a good example. We'll do 2 of my favorite genres as a hybrid. Let's say I wanted a Latin band, right? In other words, a Latin music style, like for Girl from Ipanema. But let's say I wanted big band melody sounds. Now, if I'm using my rhythm preset or style setup, am I going to get big band sounds? No. Okay. I might get a guitar, but it's going to be a Latin guitar. It's not going to be a jazz guitar. You know, I might get piano, but it's going to be maybe a society piano instead of a jazz piano. I might get trumpet, but it's not going to be a big band trumpet. You know what I mean? So if I want Latin as a music style, but let's say I want big band sounds, big band melody sounds, then I can come over here and touch big band on my category presets. Okay, so Latin music style, which meaning when I touch this, I get a Latin band. Okay, but over here on my melody sounds, big band. So check this out. All right, so again, I was doing a Latin music style, big band category for my melody sound. Looks like we got a question here. Gail, do you want to ask something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Could you hold on? I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't very good. Yeah, if you have two devices on, you need to turn one of them off. Yeah.
Could you?
Nope, still doing it.
Maybe you could type out the question, Gail, if you use the chat.
Okay, I did it. My question is, I have an aria. Would you please explain again the difference between the normal and the vintage buttons?
Yes. So in case anybody didn't get the question, on an instrument like the aria, but this is also going to be true on the Inspire, the Rialto, the Marquis, the Grand Marquis, and the aria, any instrument that has vintage. Okay, so what you're going to have is your normal style setups, and then you're going to have vintage style setups. Now, both of those are going to be groups just like rhythm presets. So if you ever had a Sterling or something like that, they're going to be very similar to the rhythm presets in the sense that you can only use them with a style, okay, whether you use normal or vintage. And when you use it, it's going to give you sounds. Like if I touch Broadway, it's going to give me Broadway sounds. Both normal and vintage will. If I touch country, both will give me country band sounds. Okay. The difference is that normal is not going to follow that formula, like where 4 is strings, 6 is a solo instrument, 7 is vocals, 8 is piano, etc. Vintage will follow that formula. Okay, so if you have an option for normal or vintage, they will both give you sounds that will be perfect for that style, whatever you pick. The difference is that normal will not necessarily, although it sometimes does, but not necessarily follow that formula, whereas vintage will follow that formula.
Bryan?
Yeah, hey Robert, is that
Can
you?
you hear me okay? Yeah, it is me.
What's up?
Hold on, I'm trying to start my video. I was asked to start my video. Okay, so you mentioned a couple times the preset information, and about an email or two ago, you mentioned I taught this in one of the classes. If you remember, we had a little chart that looked something like this. This is kind of what, where is it? Do you see that on the screen there?
Yep.
Does it say easy a little more and all that?
Yep.
Sure does.
Okay, so if you notice that, that's kind of some of the things that he was referring to in an email or two ago. I don't remember which one it was. I put this attachment on there. So if a lot of what he's saying, that's what you're referring to. By the way, if someone has an instrument that has an organ rhythm preset, this map follows this a very similar on the lower right keyboard. You're going to get a lot of these similar type setups, by the way. So it actually works on the top keyboard for the organ rhythm preset or organ style setup, depending on what model you have. What'll happen is if you put organ rhythm preset 4, for example, what will happen is you'll get an organ sound of some sort, but it might be a blend with strings. If you put on a 7 with organ rhythm preset, it might give you a vocal sound combined with organ. So it actually follows a very similar map. And I want to say that's like 95% of the time. So if you have that email, go back and look and click and download that. And probably for the heck of it, I'll send it out again this week, so just to make sure you all have that.
Cool. Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's a great chart. Another thing, I don't know if I mentioned this or if I spent much time talking about it, but this is back to your rhythm presets or vintage style setups, the ones that do follow that formula that Robert just posted on the screen there. what happens on most of these styles, it's not 100%, but it's almost all of them. If you touch number 1 or number 2, it's going to automatically turn off your Orchestra Plus. Now, if you remember me talking about that last week, I'll go back to that big band style. So this is what it sounds like, just regular. Now, if I touch number 1, listen. See how it turned off my Orchestra Plus automatically. Now, if I go to number 2 also turns off your Orchestra Plus, but it turns on drum variation. So listen to the change here. Here's 0. This is just regular. Here's number 1, turning off Orchestra Plus. Now, number 2 will keep off Orchestra Plus, but it turns on drum variation. See the different drummer there? Okay. Number 4 and number 6 typically will also turn on drum variation. Okay, number 4 and number 6 will typically turn on drum variation. And then typically on numbers 9 or 10, or whatever are your two highest numbers, will also turn on harmony. And that's why they call them ensemble and finale, because they'll give you those big, kind of finishing sounds. Or if you want to do a big first sound, you could start on number 10. But again, that's numbers 1 and 2 will turn off Orchestra Plus. 2, 4, and 6 turn on drum variation. And 9 and 10 will give you harmony. Okay, and if you remember when I was playing Girl from Ipanema, I started off with this very kind of simple sound. Right? Oops. And then when I went to the middle part, some people call it the bridge of the song, all of a sudden it sounded like this. Right? Big, full sound, right? Totally different than that first one, right? That big difference. And I didn't have to save anything in the instrument. I just know that if I go to number 4, it's going to give me some kind of string or strum instrument, or sometimes in this case it was a full orchestra, string section, and it turned on drum variation automatically. So I can kind of arrange on the fly, which is what I love to do, because that means you don't have to load anything. You can kind of make your arrangement as you go, and it really can sound very good because you get all this different stuff happening that's automatically programmed into your instrument. Does anybody else have any questions on anything I talked about?
I think we're all good.
All right. Well, that's pretty much all I had for today. Like I said, I like to do the music style workshop, and then I like to do the preset workshop, because those are the two huge things as a hobbyist. You know, you get your music styles going, you get your good melody sounds, and then it's just a matter of playing the song, which is maybe easier said than done. But at least you know that the instrument's going to sound good when you get there. So
Robert, see if he has any announcements.
Yeah, I do have an announcement. The announcement I'm going to have is Brian's going to play a song before we finish today. But I have a couple other announcements too. You are all going to be receiving an email, and I'm going to say by tomorrow afternoon, and I'll show you. I'll give you a little. Here's a rough draft of it. Not a rough draft. This is almost the final draft, but it's going to look something like this. I just sent myself a test, and then let's see, here we go. So you're going to get something that looks, and you see that all right?
Yep.
Okay. So you're going to see something like this, like you've seen in the past. So don't delete the email, because the heading's going to be Music and Education for All, and it's going to continue what we've been saying. However, this is extremely important for all of you, because if you don't catch it, you might miss out. It's going to basically say that we're going to continue our weekly classes like we're doing. And then we're adding some other things throughout the month of the June. So we're going to do well, I just came up with a real fancy term, educational product tips. And what I'm doing is we're going to break it up into types of models. So as you can see, there's an EX series, and it says ARIA Grand Marquis, and you'll notice I have Rialto, Inspire, Encourage to Intend, just because there's a lot of similarities in the way the panel works. Then we have an Easy and SD series, and I put all the models too that pertain. So if you're curious as to what that is, those are the models, and so we're going to have a couple of those models displayed, and we're going to do a workshop on operations and features, kind of what Bryan was doing today. The difference is we're going to spend more time on those instruments. So as you could see on the Easy and the SD, we're going to talk about a lot of things on those. And then for the A series, and then again, I listed all of the models, Liberty, Symphony, Patriot, etc. And then I have, if you see something that says such and such is encouraged to attend, the reason is there's a lot of similarities in the operation. And then the EY series, Fanfare, Journey, Inspire, Rialto. Again, another SD and Easy series, because we have a lot of students that are fairly new at the hobby. They're just starting to learn their instrument. And then we have one for the SU series, etc. Now, in the email, I'm not done with this email. As you can see, what I started to do is put a little thing here. So when you get the email, if you click on that box, it's going to take you to what's called a landing page, which basically means it'll ask for your name and what organ you have. And the minute you do that, it'll automatically put your name into the list. So when I send out the email for the link for that workshop that day, you're going to want to click on that. Now I'm going to have one for each box. I just haven't finished yet. And then lastly but not least, we're going to have a conductor magic class. We're starting for beginners, people that have never played before or just starting their hobby, or maybe you just got a Discovery 3 Easy 1, you're brand new at this. We're going to start that, and I'll have, again, a sign-up form for that as well. And we're going to start doing that every week, and those are the 2 times. And in our weekly class that we currently have going on, it's just a reminder that that's still happening. So you'll have all of that information coming to you probably, like I said, if I get it all finished today, I'll schedule it for tomorrow afternoon. So be on the lookout and just find the one that pertains to your model, and then you just click on it. But right around the corner on June 1st, some of you might have gotten a phone call from Cindy Riley, John Riley's wife, about that, and she may have told you 9 o'clock, which originally I was going to do. I decided to do it at 8:45 because I know there's some students that attend Marco's class, and I don't want to be rushed in between classes. So I'm going to do it at 8:45, have you finished up in time for those of you who do his classes. And that's going to be, so if you have an ARIA, Marquis, Grand Marquis, whatever is in that list, you definitely want to do that. And I'm going to ask a student that has an instrument of one of those so I can teach a class on that. And I'm going to be doing that class for those owners. That's up and coming. Last but not least, and we'll turn it over to Bryan for a little farewell music until next week. And by the way, those workshops are going to be taught by various staff members. So Sean is going to teach 1 or 2 of those. Bryan is going to teach 1 of those. Joni's going to teach 1. I think Bryan and Joni are going to teach them together. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a little different. And then you'll get to hear some different take on some of these classes. Last but not least, if you might have seen an email that looked something like this, and we're having a huge Memorial Day sale, and oh wait, Memorial Day's over, but wait, I extended it through the 31st. Now I know some of you who have an ARIA, you say, well, I can't buy anything else. Just remember, sometimes you might have room in your house for another organ. I'm at a student's house now, and I'm looking around, and she has plenty of room for 3 or 4 more organs. Because, you know, you might walk into the kitchen, and get tired and have to play. Just kidding. So we have all sorts of instruments that we're doing as part of our pre-opening to Fletcher Music Centers. In June 1st, we're going to do the next phase of opening. We're still under very safety protocols, what have you. We're going to keep groups to small groups. So we're being very conscious of that. We have a lot of students that have, for example, a lot of the bigger organs that we would normally have in large group size. This is why I'm doing these workshops online, so that you guys can learn, and then I can spend some time on just those models. So with that said, Bryan, why don't you finish off with a quick little number, and then we'll say our farewells, and then we'll see you next week.
Robert, do you want to mention a concert on Friday?
Sure, I will mention. I was going to say that. Actually, I wasn't. I had forgot. But Friday, Sean Maloney and Joe Thompson?
Yep.
Okay. We are going to do another Facebook Live performance. And it's going to be one of two ways. It's either going to be on Facebook or Zoom, but not both yet until we know that we can make it work. Facebook, for some reason, kept kicking us off as I was broadcasting it. So be on the lookout. I'll send out an email as well on that, and I already have the notification on Facebook, but what I may do is if we do it through Zoom, I'll post a link on Facebook, and then everybody could get patched in. Either way, we're going to have music at 11 o'clock or 2 o'clock Florida, or wherever you're at. If you're in England, it's, I think, 6 o'clock.
Right.
All righty, sounds good. Well, hey, thanks for joining us again today, everybody. I'm going to play another Latin tune here. If you know, Girl from Ipanema was written by probably the most prolific bossa nova composer, which was Joe Beam. And he wrote this one too. It's called Wave. And I'm just going to use the rhythm presets. I'm going to use the style called Latin guitar. And I will say too, if you guys had any questions that maybe don't want to ask here, or you're shy or whatever, make sure you get with your local store staff and ask them before you forget what the question is. Give the store a call or email them, and make sure you get the answers to any questions you might have. And this will take us out, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody again soon.
Well, thank you very much, Bryan. That was a great class. I learned something new today.
Woohoo!
So that was really good. Well, I hope you all enjoyed. We're going to keep on just for a couple minutes, and if anybody want to say goodbye to Bryan on your way out, you can do that.
Goodbye, Bryan. Thanks, Brian.
Bye.
Or you could say hello to Bryan on your way out if you didn't get a
No,
chance to say
I
hello
love
before.
the class is great, Brian. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Great
Brian.
teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
My pleasure.
Always learn something from you, Brian.
Appreciate help.
All right.
I loved your choice of music, Brian.
Oh, thank you.
Bye, Brian.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Teacher.
Where do we find this song, that song, Wave?
What's that, Gary?
Where do we find that song, Wave?
Where do we find the song Wave?
Yeah.
Brian, do you have a copy of the song Wave?
I don't on me, but I think it's in either the red or the blue Latin book. Like play those Latin hits or something like that.
Oh, okay.
What's the name of it? Did he call it?
What?
What was the name of the song?
Wave.
Name of the song is Wave.
Okay.
Oh, Wave.
A wave.
So I'll do is I'll look it up in the Hal Leonard catalog, and then I'll make sure everybody knows that the next time we get together or in the email.
Thank you.
All right.
Goodbye, Robert and Sean. Love you guys.
Love you too, dear. We'll see you guys later. We hope you enjoyed the day. We'll see you Friday for the music and next week for class and some of you throughout the workshops. Bye-bye now.
Bye now. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
I got to do this part.
God bless.